Dude, what's going on? Welcome to the podcast, Conversations with DJ. We're going to be on episode 21, I believe, and that basically makes this podcast a 1% podcast, I heard. So now I'm the top 1%. But that said, welcome again, and please introduce yourself.
Awesome. Stoked to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Mitch Hargreaves from Australia.
Mm-hmm. So I heard that, well, I don't know if I heard this, but supposedly you're the number one player in Australia. Is that true?
Yes, at the moment I'm ranked number one on the PPA tour in Australia. So, yeah.
Are you number one for all events or just kind of like dubs? Like, what is your specialty?
Yeah, so singles, mixed, and doubles right now I'm number one.
Okay.
And we have like an overall ranking, which is like a combination of, all three.
Okay, very cool, dude. Nice. And was that something that you were like, hey, this is kind of a goal that I have, and it just, or was it something that just kind of happened over time? Like, oh, I won a couple of tournaments and became number one.
Yeah, it was, I guess, not really a goal. We were playing tournaments all last year, and I think, I just wanted to try and win events. That was my main goal. So I wasn't really thinking about the ranking. And then as soon as PPA Tour Australia started, same thing, went into every event wanting to win it, and then the rankings came later.
Nice, very cool. So is there anybody in Australia, because I don't know much about Australia, right? Is there anybody in Australia that you're like, oh, fuck, like he's like getting close to my level? Or is it kind of like a good gap between you and the number two?
I would say like all of the matches, especially in finals, are pretty competitive. There are maybe like 6 to 8 guys right now that are maybe like the top tier guys who, we can all have competitive matches.
Yeah.
Which is really good. Like last year, there were only 4 of us. So literally every men's doubles final, it was the same 4 of us, and we'd like switch partners, but we'd always play in the finals.
Okay, nice. And what about mixed doubles?
Yeah, so mixed doubles, I've had a pretty good run. I usually play with Amelia Schmidt. Yeah, she's
here like almost full time basically now.
Yeah, she's full time. She's come over to the US, tried out a bit. I believe she still wants to move here, so she's had some good results over here as well. But yeah, I play mixed doubles with her, and we've won majority of events over in Australia.
So coming from Australia, like obviously the sport's a little bit different. It's like a little bit smaller over there, right? Like when you play a tournament like the PPA San Clemente, which in my opinion is the favorite, it's like the best location, best venue. Like there's people everywhere, right? And it's beautiful. Like, do you get like a little bit nervous? Are you like super excited? Like, or are you like, oh, like I like Australia better?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's definitely like a mixed bag of emotions. I'm always super excited to come over here. I tell my girlfriend this all the time. Like, as soon as I come over to an event over here, like the biggest thing for me is to try and get comfortable.
Yeah.
There are so many distractions compared to Australia. It's like so many people that you watch on the streams all the time. They're just walking around playing their matches. So I always have to try and block that out as much as I can and focus on my own game.
Yeah.
At the same time, like, I do love watching you top guys play and always trying to learn things from you guys.
Yeah. Who do you watch the most?
Like on stream?
Yeah, like if you like had to pick like the top 3 guys, you're like, oh, I'm like learning from this, and this. Like, who are your top 3?
Well, obviously like Ben Johns.
Of course.
He's always there in the finals. Another one, like my friend Jamé, like watching him. He's always exciting to watch. And I gotta say, Hayden Patchquin now.
Yeah,
he's on fire.
Yeah, he's the man. And when you come to so you're pretty tight with Callan, right?
I play with him whenever I come over.
Yeah. So how did that friendship start?
Oh, that would have been one of the last times I was here. I think I was playing APP in Chicago. My friend Kyle Whatnall. So I came down here to hang out with him, and he kind of introduced us to Callan and Hayden.
Do you surf with him?
I actually haven't yet. Last time I was here, it was too cold.
Yeah.
The water was too cold. So
too cold in San Diego?
Yeah. Well,
interesting.
It was last time I was here, so I think it was more winter time, and there weren't enough wetsuits for everyone, so I didn't get out.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, actually, funny enough, so I'm pretty good friends with Kyle myself, and I know he's been going to Australia to play some MLP and PPA stuff.
Yeah.
But his dad is my accountant.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so we get to hang out together a little bit here and there, and actually Kyle's sister, she lives in my apartment complex. So it's kind of a funny like triangle of love there for some reason. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Are you trying to like obviously you're probably gonna stay in Australia, or are you gonna try to make a move here and try to make a pro run here in the United States, or what are your plans with all of that?
Yeah, so definitely like last year I was looking kind of to like break more into the US scene. I found out obviously it's super tough to break into the scene. Everyone's on big contracts who are signed, and everyone's so comfortable as well. Like I was saying, it's super hard to come over here and play your game when all these other things are happening. So I think right now, like I want to be based in Australia, come over here and get the experience, get the matches, and try to cause some upsets.
Yeah.
But also, in Australia, like we're so close to Asia, and Asia's really taking off as well.
Yeah.
There's a tour over there. So like a couple of weeks ago, I was in Korea playing an event, and
fun.
I'm going to go to China soon as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of just growing the sport in Australia and Asia, because I believe Asia's going to be a huge market.
Yeah, it is. Is your girlfriend going with you?
I don't believe so for that one.
Bummer.
She's only here right now because she's in between uni semesters and taking some time off work. So that can't always happen.
Gotcha. No, that's very cool. And I don't know much about like pickleball in Asia itself, but I would imagine that whatever they're doing, they're gonna get really good at it, right? So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that comes into play. I would also be really interested to see like if people from China or whatever it is, like they're gonna come here and try to go pro in the U.S. because obviously there's like pretty good money being thrown out, right? So it'll just gonna be interesting to see that entire dynamic,
Yeah.
That said, obviously, like number one in Australia, what does your training look like out there, and who do you practice with?
Yeah, so I've been like full-time pickleball for about a year now. I say full-time, but I'm still figuring out how to like get a full-time training schedule in with other people who aren't full-time.
Yeah.
So pretty much everyone who I train with now, I've gotten into pickleball through like my tennis background. I got my old tennis coach into it, and he runs some venues over there, some tennis venues. I got him to actually like put some pickleball courts in.
Yeah.
So we finally have like pickleball specific courts. So I'm just training with him, some other tennis guys, and one girl, just around their schedules pretty much.
Okay.
And when I'm not playing pickleball, I have a personal trainer. I go to the gym twice a week, try to get some recovery in as well. Ever since I've like upped the gym workouts, I've realized I actually need to stretch and like
for sure.
have some ice baths and stuff so I can keep going. So
Yeah. What do some of those workouts look like? A lot of legs, or are you running? What are you weights?
yeah, so a lot of legs. I try and do a lot of explosive movement.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed like coming over here is like the best guys move so well,
Yeah.
especially in singles. Like they're the quickest guys, they're reading the plays, but they're also getting behind the ball, getting set every time. So that's one massive thing that I want to work on. And yeah, that's why I'm just training explosiveness and kind of leg work.
Yeah, for sure. Do you come from tennis?
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess like I play tennis too, and obviously I play some soccer being from Spain, but I was always told that the best players are always the best movers.
Yeah.
Right. So like as long as you're able to move well, you're light on your feet, you're fast, you're quick, like you're gonna get good real quick. And sometimes I teach a couple lessons here and there in San Diego to like my friends and stuff, and sometimes it's hard to tell these people that I give lessons to, my students, like, oh, like how do you hit this shot, or like how do you do this? And I'm like, well, you got to move your feet first, and we got to get to the ball, and then you can do a certain shot, right? But yeah, then again, like I think for everybody, especially amateurs, if you really want to get better, like you have to be a better mover. Like I think if you move better, things are gonna come easier, and then the shots are gonna happen more naturally. But if you're not in the right position more often than not, then things are gonna come kind of downhill.
Yeah, for sure.
So that said, I mean, who's your favorite female player to watch? And the follow-up question to that would be like, why?
Oof. Favorite female player? The easy answer would be Anna Lee.
Yeah.
But I think I actually, ever since Tyra Black started, I love watching her. Yeah, she's so athletic. Talk about great movers.
Fast.
Yeah.
Fast, yeah.
And I think she's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, there was a one match, I think it was like PPA Los Cap at some point. I don't know if you watched this, but she was like literally on the ground like every 2 points.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on like, for example, like Elise Jones is like diving for balls? Like, would you ever do something like that?
That's pretty crazy. I haven't really dived for a ball yet. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really put my body on the line like that yet.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. The one that's on the ground a lot too is Jill. Have you seen Jill's memes by any chance?
I haven't really seen her on the ground too much, no.
Dude, she's on the ground all the time. There was this ball in San Clemente where I guess she was playing with her sister, and I guess her sister got lobbed, and instead of just saying like, "Oh, you go get it," she's like, "I believe in you." She just went to go get it, but I don't know, just a funny people, funny interactions. So, are you playing APP Newport?
No, I'm not.
How come?
Well, we're taking a bit of a holiday after this.
Nice.
Yeah, just doing a little road trip up the coast. Most of the time when I come over here, it's just straight into an event and straight back home.
Yeah.
So I haven't really gotten to see anywhere over here. So yeah, just gonna take a bit of time off.
Where are you guys gonna be at? Because we're just in San Clemente,
Yeah.
San Diego right now. What's the plan?
Going to LA for the next few days, like 4th of July week.
Nice.
And then after that, just a road trip up to San Francisco, like stop by some beaches, check them out, and maybe like 2 nights in Vegas before we leave.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be partying in Vegas?
Not partying, just checking it out.
Gambling?
No comment.
That's funny. I had Ryan Cherry right before you doing a podcast, and he's like all about gambling.
Yeah, will I see him in Vegas, do you think?
You might.
Yeah.
If you text him, probably just come out.
Yeah.
Do it with you. No, that's really funny. What's your next event here in the U.S.?
I haven't actually looked that far ahead. Yeah, so right now I'm just getting prepared for the next Australian season and fitting in like a few Asian events as well.
What does the Australian season look like out there?
Yeah, so season 2, I'm just playing the PPA Tour Australia and MLP Australia.
Yeah.
So the next season pretty much consists of like 3 events. It's PPA Tour and MLP in the same weekend. But yeah, only 3 events for this season.
Okay. And so I know how MLP works here. I don't really know how it works over there. But I know, Roman, right?
Yeah.
So he's from San Diego, or I think he lives around San Diego. And like, how is Roman able to play in MLP Australia? Like, I guess like it makes sense, but like to me, it's like, shouldn't just like Australian people play Australia? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So last year we had a different format. Is like before we merged with PPA and MLP. There were like 8 players on a team. They're pretty much all Australians.
Yeah.
And I think we just didn't have the depth at that point in time.
Yeah.
So now that we've actually opened up the application to international players, we're getting a lot more talent into Australia, and I think it's just helping the sport grow. Like for me, I actually have to travel all the way over here to the US to like play against you guys, like see what the level is like and everything. So, but for a lot of people in Australia, they're working full time, like they don't really have that opportunity. So I think all the international players going there and playing is really, lifting the level over there. And so we can only have like 1 international player per team.
Okay.
So it's not like, the whole MLP Australia is going to be international.
Right.
We have that restriction. And the other 3 players pretty much have to be from Australia, New Zealand, or Asia.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Asia too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for you, so you get picked if you're as like the number 1 guy. So if you get picked like first round, right? And then are you the one kind of like picking your own team as you go, or are the owners really involved? It's like, no, we're going to get this person instead. Yeah.
So here's like the major difference. We have like team captains.
Okay.
So there's 6 guy captains, 6 female captains. So pretty much we have to pick our own teams.
Okay. Interesting.
Which, like it's...
So there's no owners involved?
Well, we have team owners, but they're not too involved at this stage.
Okay.
Because some teams don't have owners, some teams do. So right now it's pretty much all up to the captains, which is pretty exciting. We have that flexibility, but at the same time, it can be tough as well.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you think like this pool is kind of small, right? So for you, like, what's your strategy going into like an MLP team? Like, are you trying to get a really good player international that's a female, that's a male, like, or are you just kind of going through the motions?
That's a great question. Our next draft is actually like on the 3rd of July, so I'll have to do that while I'm over here. But I guess my strategy last season was to try and pick up 2 females. And
after you.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because I'm already on the team. I had 4th pick last season. So I tried to get one of the top females. I picked Amelia. And
that
then
seems like unfair.
Yeah.
Well, because if she's the number one female player and you're the number one male player, like, shouldn't you guys be in different teams?
Um, well, I guess not because we didn't take out the season, so I guess we needed at least 3 or 4 strong players. So
Okay.
we were pretty top heavy
Mm-hmm.
last season. Another thing was we had like a pretty strict regional pick, so they had to be from our state, and I only had, I think, like 2 of my friends who I train with. They're pretty much the top players from the state. They were taken like first round and early second round.
Okay.
So I couldn't take either of them. I ended up picking this guy, Jason Taylor, who he was like a top level doubles tennis player. I think he was like 160 in the world.
Oh, nice.
Just coming off an injury. So he decided to pick up pickleball and get into it. So I picked him as my regional pick because he had a higher ceiling than most of the other people who were playing at the time. But it is like a steep learning curve. By the end of the season, though, we were playing super well together.
Yeah.
But yeah, that regional pick was definitely super tough.
Yeah.
So for this season, regional pick is like from Australia and New Zealand. It's not by state.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, that's very cool. So anybody could technically apply. Like, I could apply.
Yeah.
That'd be
Well, are you in an MLP team over here? Or?
I am.
Yeah, so probably not.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So if you're not in an MLB team in the US, you can apply.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Huh. Were you pretty pumped like when at PP and MLP were like, hey, we're gonna come to Australia? Like,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What did the pickleball look like in Australia before MLP and PPA came through?
So we had, I guess our main tour was the Pacific Pickleball League.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much still that entity. They've just partnered with PPA and MLP Australia. So yeah, it's still the same guys who are running the Pacific Pickleball League, but now they're, I guess, part of the PPA team.
Okay. What were you doing before pickleball? How old are you?
Oh, I'm 26.
Okay.
Before pickleball, I was working full time. I kind of quit tennis when I was like 16.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was just working full time, just living a normal life.
What were you doing for work?
I was in construction in project
nice.
management
That's
team.
really cool.
Yeah.
Just living a normal life. Is that
Yeah,
kind of like an
normal
8 to
life.
5, come back, watch some Netflix, go to bed?
Yeah, it was like 7 to 5. So I was
Okay.
getting to work at like 6:30, getting home at like 5:30, 6 p.m.
Mhm.
Just on the grind.
Yeah. And how did you find pickleball?
Well, I was born and raised in Hawaii.
Mhm.
So pretty much when I go back to visit my friends over there, they were telling me about the sport that they started playing, called pickleball. And they knew I grew up playing tennis. So they're like, yeah, you should try it out. It's super fun. And they sent me some videos. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I thought the same exact thing when I started.
I'm like, back then it was like fiberglass paddles, like plastic wiffle ball. I'm like,
But
yeah.
wiffle was still plastic, so we got ways to go still.
yeah, true. But yeah, I just went over there and it's just what they were doing at the time. So I gave it a go and it was super fun. Majority of my friends over there were surfers. So they didn't really have hand-eye coordination, but they were still good.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
Yeah. They still made it super competitive with me, which I was surprised about because I had the tennis background.
Yeah.
So after that, I got pretty motivated to actually, I guess, keep playing and get better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the rest is history. That's what they say, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think the cool, like to me, always like it, especially now even more than before. But the coolest part about pickleball is the fact that you can grab like a Dylan Frazier that has like zero tennis background, right? And he can go and win singles in pickleball.
Yeah.
Right. When you have like complete studs on the court.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like another big difference about coming over here is like so many people who I meet, I'm like, oh, did you play tennis? They're like, no, I was, baseball background or like,
Alan,
soccer background or, I don't know. I met someone who's like an NFL background. I'm like, that's crazy. Because in Australia, I guess it's still so new where the tennis players are kind of still on top.
For sure.
I think if a baseball or like basketball player picked it up, like maybe they would need like more variety of players to pick up more skills or just more time as well to get better.
Yeah, I think especially time, like you made a good point because like when I think of like the people that don't play or haven't played tennis, right? Like Callan, Dylan, or Hayden, for example, that's like my top 3. Like neither one of them played tennis, but they all been playing pickleball for a very long time. Like there's videos of like age just like being like 14 years old, and he's like tiny. Like Maggie Brosh is bigger than him.
Yeah,
And he's just,
crazy.
so it's like they've been playing for so long that they kind of learn how to play pickleball. Where I feel like if you were to just grab another Hayden, but you put him out on the court without like the tennis background, I think it would be extremely difficult to like relearn or like actually learn all of that on the go. Where like he was able to do it from like 14 to now 18, like because everyone gets to see like Hayden playing really well and winning big matches and now getting like medals, but like no one has really seen like the Hayden of like 4 years ago, 5 years ago when I met him and he was like a little kid and I was like buying hats for him. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I think it's crazy. But then again, like, when you put like side to side and you grab like Dylan Frazier, which I'm really good friends with, and then like on the other side of the court is like Jack Sock, which is like, like a tennis American legend. And then, he's able to actually beat Jack Sock at a racket sport. Like that's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah, well, that's one of the crazy things about pickleball, and that's something that I find really motivating as well. Because I did have a tennis background, but you come across guys like Jack Sock or like Donald Young who were at a higher level, but looking at guys like Dylan Frazier and other guys, you're just like, well, if they can reach those levels with no tennis background, I have a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always joke with Dylan because Dylan is such a nice, likable guy. And I always joke with him and, we kind of go back and forth because, like, Dylan, everyone likes you because everyone thinks they can do what you do.
Yeah.
Right? But then when they look at somebody like LeBron James, like, well, I'm not 6'8", I'm not 250 pounds, I don't have that much muscle, I can't do what he does. But Dylan's just like a normal, like, day-to-day guy, just, hanging out, playing some pickleball, spinning the paddle around. He's just, like, beating everybody in pickleball, So I think it's, like, extremely cool. So we talked a little bit about, what you're doing now. We talked about construction, that you were doing before, and now you're 26. So, like, what does, like, the next couple of years, look like for you, do you think?
Yeah, so my biggest plan is just like growing pickleball in Australia, in Asia as well. That is, pretty much what I'm focused on. I believe both those markets can get pretty big.
Yeah.
Right now, I guess it's like the US is so big that everyone really has to come here at the moment to make a name for themselves or get better. But from what I've seen over the first season of MLP, I have so much interest from like people in Asia wanting to actually break into the Australian scene. So I feel like we're kind of a stepping stone for the US.
Yeah.
Because Asia's a little bit behind us. They want to train up, get better, play their events, but then also get drafted into our scene.
Yeah.
And then maybe from our scene go to the US.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think like the stepping stone thing it's kind of interesting, right? Because if you really think about it, like if I'm from Spain, right? So I played tennis growing up and I knew I didn't want to go to college. But that said, if you're in Spain and you're 18 and you're not a professional already, like your next thing is like you have to go to college in the US. So then like Spain kind of has like that stepping stone, like, okay, I'm going to play here, and if I can't go pro, I'll have to like go to college in the US, which is technically still a stepping stone if you're still trying to go pro, right? But there's always like there's always this like form of like stepping stones everywhere you go, So I wonder if like pickleball in the US is always going to be like top, or I wonder if like Asia could be the next top place where, everyone goes and plays. But actually, what do you think? Do you think it's going to be the US for a long time? Do you think it's going to stay here mostly, or do you think some countries going to be like, oh no, like we have the best pickleball players in the world?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the US is, you guys already have such a big field of players playing that I feel like it's almost easier for you guys to even increase your level even more.
Yeah.
You guys have the resources, the players and everything. Whereas in Australia, it's like we're trying to catch up, but I feel like it's almost we're at the beginning of the curve. It's a little bit slower. We have a few top guys, top females that we can train with and get better with. But we're a little bit behind. But maybe when Asia really steps up, I think China's just getting into it now, and they're going to go like full steam ahead. Like they're going to have a lot of players getting involved. And they're going to put on more tournaments, more prize money. So I believe like when a lot of players get better in Asia and Australia, it's just, we're going to kind of have like that good competition to like really grow together.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, right, you have to be able to try to push each other.
Yeah.
Right, whether it's like in life or in pickleball. In this instance, like me and like for example, right, Callan, like Cal and I are really good friends, but we're also able to, go out there and somewhere in San Diego, perhaps Bobby Riggs, so shout out Bobby Riggs, and we can, sit there for 2 hours and we're drilling, but we're also talking and trying to figure out ways of how we can also make each other better. Like, oh, what do you think about this? Like, should I be doing this? Like, dude, when the fuck do you lob? Or like, why do you lob so much? You know what I mean? So like little things here and there. So yeah, I know. I think having those people that are, around that are really good at pickleball in this case, you're able to kind of like push each other and have almost like a really healthy like rivalry.
Yeah, no, that
going on.
That's a great point, because my previous visits to the States, I've pretty much been like the only guy coming over from Australia trying to break into the US scene. And that's been super tough because, I don't really know, what my expectations are. I just have to go in with like a blank canvas. But this time I actually came over with my friend from Australia, Tom Evans.
Yeah.
He had a good run.
He did really well in singles.
He had a good run in singles this week. And that was great. Like, he went on for his singles match before me and he beat Rafa Hewitt.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I'm like, oh, I have to go out there and get a win now. So I went out, won my first round, and then, yeah, it's kind of that same theory of just like having that friendly competition. It's like we both want each other to do super well because it really like puts Australia on the map. But at the same time, I think, deep down we want to like one up each other. So
yeah, for sure.
It's good. Like we're ready to like go back to Australia and like train harder and stuff and come back over and try and reach new heights.
Yeah, especially coming here, playing the PPA, like you can, like he played Federico, right? Federico to me is like the best singles player in the world right now. Like I don't even care if he was going to be like, if he was points wise, if he was 8, like I still think he would be the best. Like, he's just so good because when he's beating people, like he's beating them like 2-2, like 3-3, like 3-6. You're like he's not only beating them, he's beating them like Annalise style.
Yeah.
Just running down people. So to me, he's like the best. Like for for Tom in this case, Tom Evans, to play Federico and like really, really play the highest level. He's like, okay, I know exactly what this feels like. And now I know what I have to do when I get home, right? Where if you come here, obviously he had a good, really good couple wins. But if he came here and then he lost to Rafa, even though Rafa is great, he wouldn't have a great idea on like, okay, like, yeah, he's good, but like, what's like the next level?
Yeah.
So, like he got a gist of like, what the top level looks like, and then you just have to go back and try to get better at it, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it gave him a lot of confidence as well. I think, maybe he got started a little slow in the first game. Like you said, Federico comes out, just really tries to get on top of his opponents, but I think he was up 8-5 in the second. So he felt like, his level was almost there. There's maybe a few things that he needs to touch up, and then it's just a good confidence booster.
Yeah. Do you guys play doubles together, or who do you play with?
We did play doubles together.
How was it?
It was good. It was actually our first time ever playing doubles together. And
even though you guys are both in Australia?
Yeah, so he's in a different state to me.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we just haven't really played doubles together. I flew down to Melbourne to get like 1 or 2 days training with him. But like playing a tournament, it's always a different dynamic.
Yeah.
But yeah, first round we lost in 3 games. Yeah, it was kind of tight. I think we just ran out of gas at the end. But yeah, we're planning on training more when we get back and working on a few things. We've actually been training the last couple of days. Travis Rettenmeyer has been giving us a few tips.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
I just met him this trip, but he's been super awesome.
Yeah, Travis is awesome.
Giving us some tips, what like the high level men's doubles players do, and like just, the angles and moving and everything. So it's something we can take back to Australia and really work on.
Yeah, that's awesome. How old is Tom?
Tom's a bit younger than me. I think he's 23.
Okay, so he's like around my age. I'm 24. Nice,
yeah,
that's cool. I mean, it's also cool to have somebody like, in your case, 26 or like 23, like you still have so many good years ahead of you, right? Like you can come to the US and be like, oh, like it wasn't a great tournament, but I'm doing good in Australia, so I can always come back and try again, right? Where, like, the upside is always there. But like maybe if you're like, 35, 36 and you come here, you get kind of like your ass whooped and you're like, I don't think I'm going to do that ever again, So it's like, there's always like that kind of two sides of the coin, but no, that's really cool. So like, in your case, right, you come here, you practice with Callan, maybe Roman. You met my friend Mike too, right? You're my friend Mike, the redheaded guy.
Yes,
yeah,
Mikey.
He's pretty good too. Like, people like that are pretty good. and then you complete the tournament, what are some of the key takeaways that you go home with, and you're like, okay, I really need to get on top of this?
Yeah, no, it's another great question. Yeah, so every time I come over, there's always new things that I just don't see people doing in Australia. And I like to take like a few things from some people and really try and work on them. So one of my first times playing with Callan and Hayden, obviously Callan with the lob.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, so he was just seeing like how effortlessly he can, lob people and stuff. That's something I've tried to work on. And then one major thing I took from Hayden was, I believe when I was like hitting a drop to him, he would just do that backhand flick like straight into the side fence.
Yeah, just like.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, nobody does that.
Yeah.
Usually people like, I don't know, try and beat you with power or something straight through you, maybe like close to the line.
Yeah, try to keep you backward.
Yeah, exactly. But it was almost like bringing people forward, but like off the court. So
for sure, you kind of like opening up the angle sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So like when I went back to Australia, I was just practicing my backhand flick, just getting that angle. Still have a long way to go with it, but that's something that I think has like given me a bit of success in Australia with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you do a lot of these drills, are you kind of doing like one-on-one? Do you have a coach that's feeding you balls? Are you doing like a ball machine? Like what route do you go?
Yeah, so I definitely need to like still work on securing like a proper training routine, because at the moment, like as I said, I'm working around other people's schedules, trying to get on the court and like do drills with them. Also, like, when my dad finishes work or something, he'll come to the courts and try and feed me some balls, but that rarely happens.
That would be like the best training though. Like I think that's kind of like the next like pillar in pickleball, where you're gonna have somebody like, what are you not good at? We're gonna hammer this for like an hour, and this is exactly what we're gonna do, right?
Exactly.
And you just get better.
Yeah, because the thing about like drilling with somebody else, I find like either you feel too selfish by just making them hit your balls in the same spot when they need to work on their own things, and you don't want to miss because then they're not going to get a good hit in. Right. So you're not trying different things and you're not really filling the ball out as much as you could be. So yeah, I love when like, someone could just feed me balls and I could just do reps over reps. So
well, and also like when you're training from like a training, like, selfish like standpoint, right? Like if you can have a coach that's feeding you balls, like you're focused on yourself for like an hour and a half, or maybe even an hour, and then you work on these like certain specific skills, and you can kind of go home and be like, okay, like I worked on this. But like now I think we all kind of have the small quote unquote issue where you're drilling, but like you're doing like kind of like the same thing over and over and over again, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but you're also not really pushing yourself, right? Like you can hit things cross court, right? You can hit drops down the line, but like can you mimic some form of like drill with a basket and like 100 balls where you're putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and kind of like responding accurately, I guess, in a way to where it's making you better, instead of like, let me just sit here and like do this all day, right? So I think, to me, like for me personally, I think that's like the big next step. Like if we can afford like coaches on the road would be amazing, right? But coaches at home or whatever it is, we're like, hopefully every day, but like 2 to 3 times a week, you're like, okay, I'm going to spend an hour here and we're going to work on my backhand flick, or we're going to work on like, running from like the left side into the right side and hitting a drop, like, mimicking like mixed doubles or something, But I think that's definitely like the next big thing. The last question that I have for you, kind of knowing you're coming from Australia, like, what are your thoughts on all the paddle technology stuff that's going on, right? Because for us right now, and then again, I don't know how advanced you guys are, even though I'm sure you play with the same paddles, but now we're having a problem here where people are just hitting it like way too hard, right? Like I have, Deco Bar.
Yes.
Like I love Deco. We're super good friends. He's gonna come on the podcast. But it's like, if you speed up a Deco, first of all, he's gonna hit a winner like 80% of the time or more, but like, it's basically 50-50. Like you're either going to speed up and lose the point, or you're going to speed up and win the point. But it's going to depend on him whether you win or lose it, because the ball just comes back so fast, right? And somebody like him that's like 6'3", 6'4", he's a complete unit, right? And he has like a paddle that's really powerful. Like that ball, you're never seeing that ball come back, right? Yeah. Like, what do you think from like your point of view, coming also from Australia and playing some pickleball here, like what's that paddle situation look like?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's as big of a deal yet. I know you guys are so solid on like your speed ups and counters, so I think maybe that has a bigger impact. However, like our last PPA tournament in Australia, everyone rocked up with their Gen 3 Yolas and everything, and that was when they were like just being banned in the US. So there's a big controversy like, oh, can we still use them over here, or are they? But because I believe over here, like in the US, that they didn't know if you could still use them in PPAs because they're banned on USA PA or something. So so we had that same issue, and I believe they had to just use the Gen 2 Yolas or like downgrade a little bit. But I think even that's still a good paddle. So I don't know if anyone really was affected that bad. But yeah, like that technology in the Gen 3, I've tried it, and it just feels like you can grab the ball. It feels like you're playing with a tennis racket.
Yeah, for sure. Such a good paddle.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping at the moment, like other paddles are still super hot, like the Engage MX, like Pursuit Pro, which I played with. I feel like that's super hot as well. So like I don't really feel like it's that big of an issue yet in Australia.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I guess like my follow-up question to that would be, when you see like the best form of pickleball in your mind, like are you thinking like spin over power, or are you thinking like power over spin?
Yeah, I like when I came over here and played some guys like Travis and stuff, he was saying like he actually takes a bit of power off to get the trajectory low and like add a bit of spin, because you're not always trying to win the point in one shot, right? You're ready for the next one. In Australia, I feel like we're trying to win the point in one shot most of the time. So yeah, if we're like speeding up, we're trying to like find gaps or trying to finish the point. But I think we're moving more in a way where it's becoming that 1-2 punch, even going into those firefights. So right now, I think the best thing would to be like utilizing spin, maybe trajectory, like keeping the ball low and getting ready for the next one, rather than just like blast someone off the court in one shot.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's like a really good thing to kind of work on, because like a lot of people like watching women's matches more than men's matches, because the ball kind of goes back and forth a lot, even in hand battles, right? And it's not that they're not hitting it hard, like they actually are hitting it really hard, but the trajectory is always kind of like level, right? Where it's like kind of back and forth. Like in men's doubles, because we're able to reach in longer arms and stuff like that, like you hit and the ball's coming down at you. Then the next one tends to be scoop, kind of goes up. The next one's a put away, the ball's gone, right? So that's kind of like the difference between, men's and women's. And that's why I think women's is fun to watch, because there's just so much back and forth, right? And guys just hit it like so hard, right?
Yeah.
Dude, but that said, I'm just going to thank my sponsors real quick. I'm just going to give a quick shout out to Hezocor, You Drippin', and obviously Stack, which I always wear their clothes. Use DJ Young code at checkout for a nice discount, and it gives me a little bit of money too to pay for the podcast. And that said, please like and subscribe. I'm really bad at that, and whatever you want to thank or say hi or whatever you want to talk about, here we go.
Yeah, just big thank you to Engage Pickleball, my main sponsor. Hi to everyone back home, family, friends, having a great time over here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.